Hello, guys. Welcome once again to another Epic Photography Podcast episodes. Today, I'm joined by my good friend and co-host and awesome guy. Well, I wish I could make those presentations you do with on the grid with Eric Kuna. It's amazing. You should be like a rapper or something because you do all those. It's not scripted, so but I'm not that good, so I'm sorry. So it's just Scott Kelby. You don't need any introduction. So good to have you here,
Well,
Scott.
thank you.
We
Thank you,
are
Cheeky.
talking.
Thanks very
Yeah,
much.
we are talking printing, right? So today we'll be talking printing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's as usual, the Epic Photography Podcast is sponsored by Platypod, the world's most compact tripod base. Scott, do you use a Platypod?
Daily. Yes, I use a
Yeah, I
platypod
know.
all the
Who
time. I have the
doesn't? Yeah,
extreme, I have the ultra, I have the
yeah.
platyball. Yeah, I'm all over it.
Well, believe it or not, I still don't have my extreme, but I will have it soon. So
Oh, it's
that's
nice. It's
that's
nice.
I know I've
You know,
seen
it was
it.
funny. I was talking this just recently at a conference, and I mentioned the platypod. I mentioned the platypod, and I'm talking, and a guy in the front row opens his bag and pulls out an extreme with a platypod and goes, "Here," and hands me one, and I was able to show it to the audience. Yeah, it was like he had it right there in his bag in the front
Yeah,
row. How was that for perfect timing?
you can have it. You can always have it with you because it's
Oh
so
yeah.
small and light, and so
Yep.
yeah. So that's our sponsor as usual, Platypod. If you don't have one, you should get one because you will not believe how you could live without one as soon as you actually get one. It's like, why didn't I bought this one before? Well, anyway,
Yep.
today we're talking about printing, and I have to confess here in front of everyone that I was not someone that used to print my photos myself, and usually I would not send them out to print that often. So, you have a computer, you have the web, and you share on your mobile, and that was it. But thanks to you, Scott, thanks to Daniel Gregory, Kelby One instructor, awesome guy too. Also, our friend Ross Chevalier, Kelby One community leader and moderator, good friend.
Yep.
Three people that I do trust a lot, I do respect, and the three of you are saying, well, you need to start printing. You need to print. You need to print. And at some point I was like, well, these three guys tell me that I should start printing. I better listen to them and give it a try. So my experience so far has been great. And we want to discuss that with our readers. So there's this thing that people have their photos on their mobiles and things, but why do you think it's important that people actually print photos? Is it that?
Oh yeah. Absolutely. I always say that when you make a print, that's the moment that your image is actually born, right? Because your image is behind a piece of glass. You can't touch it. You can't feel it. It's you're looking at it through a glass window, right? And if you see it on your phone, it's just so easy to go, "Oh, that's a nice picture." Swipe. It's just so easy to move on to the next photo, to scroll to the next photo on Instagram or on Facebook or whatever. And there's a number of things that are not optimal about seeing everything on a screen. The first one is the size. So, what is the size, Nando, that we normally see photographs in our life today? This
It's
big.
like
It's
what,
the size
three
of the
inches,
Instagram.
4 inches?
Yes.
Yeah.
Excuse my finger here, by the way. My
Well,
doggy was taking a treat.
most people will be listening to us. So Scott has a hurt finger,
Oh, good.
and I also have
Yeah.
a hurt finger. So
Yeah. So if
this
you're
is not
watching
a
in
prop.
video and
This
you go,
is
"Wow,
real.
wow, Scott's finger is all lit up." Yeah, it's
Team
all lit up.
Epic is
So
all messed up.
yeah. Yeah. So it's the size of an Instagram. So it's very small. All right. So that you don't have any scale. So your image has much, much, much less impact. And I always tell people if you want to ever really understand the impact of scale, of why printing a picture looks so great, there's a great way to totally get this. The next time you're in a hotel, so you're in, like, I don't know, a Marriott or a Hilton or a Days Inn, whatever, they always have these very large prints in the lobby, right? It's not usually painting because it's usually photographs. And today the trend is to have photographs from the local area, right? So if you're in Pittsburgh, you see, iconic scenes from Pittsburgh, So go up and look at the photo. Forget the framing, forget the nice mat, forget the large size. Just look at the photo and see what you think of the image. Most of the time you're going to look at it and go, well, that's not very awesome. Except for when it's huge and it's matted and it's framed, it looks pretty good. And you're not really paying that much attention. You're going to your room and you're going to the coffee shop and you're checking in and you're going to the concierge or whatever. You're not really looking. You stop and look at those photos, and I'm surprised at how disappointing the photos are by themselves. But at that big size, they look pretty good. And a lot of it is the impact of scale. The fact that it's very large makes a picture look good. It really does. If I hand you the same picture as a 4x6, you'd shrug your shoulders. It's okay. But if you see it huge on the wall, framed and matted and everything, you're like, wow, that's nice. But I'm like, okay, I know overall it's nice. Like it's a nice presentation.
One,
it looks good.
Even if your pictures are crap, print them big.
Make
and
them
they
big.
Look
print
better.
them big.
Now imagine
Absolutely.
doing that for a good photo. So
right, now take a good photo and make it big and it gets spectacular. But I'm telling you, I'm not judging other people's photo. I'm asking you to judge other people's photos.
Yeah.
Next time you're in a hotel, stop and don't just walk past them. Give it a look and ask yourself, is this a really good photo? How would this photo look as a 4x6? How would this look on Instagram? And then you'll be very, very surprised. And occasionally you'll see a really nice picture in a hotel, but for more often than not, I look at them and I'm like, if this wasn't 3 feet by 3 feet, this wouldn't look very good. So that's one. There's an impact of scale, and scale does make things much, much better. All right, let me hold on a second. I'm going to stop my. I'm going to put my folk do not disturb on. All right, because my brother's texting me. Those of you who are watching at home, listening, it won't matter. But for those of you who are watching, you're like, oh, he's getting texts. That's nice. Okay, so there's that. I think that's one. I think number two is, when you print something, that's the moment it's born. Like I always say, it's born. And the reason why I say that is because now it is something you can touch and feel, and it's real.
Yep.
Before you print an image, it's trapped in your computer. It's trapped behind that glass. You make that print. You hold it. And what I always tell people is, when you make a print, you hand it to somebody. Watch their fingers. You will see their fingers moving, and they're like, oh, this is so nice. Because they are now, they're not just using just vision, right? Now they're adding another sense, which is touch. And you connect with an image that you're touching on a very different level than you do just looking at something. I remember when my kids were not born yet, right? So they weren't born, and my wife and I were terrified because we were not qualified to have children. So we went to parenting classes. And one of the things that they told us in our parenting class was, once your kids are big enough to understand and they're walking around, they're little toddlers and stuff, when your kid does something important, when they do something, when they were really good at school, when they got good grades, when they shared with other kids, when they got some kind of an accolade, how important it was when you were telling them they did a good job that you touched them, that you put your hands on their shoulder or your hands on their head or you held their hand or something, because that increases the connection and increases the seriousness of like, I'm serious, you did great. And when you touch them, it takes it up a notch. And it's the same thing with prints. You're connected to that print and the whole experience in a much higher level when you're actually touching and feeling it. But again, just like I said, if you go in the hotel, look on the walls, when you hand someone a print, regardless of what size it is, don't look at their face, look at their fingers and see how they're connecting with it. It's very rare to see someone just hold it and their fingers are still, nope, they're feeling the paper, like they're connecting with it on a different level. And it's unconscious. They don't realize they're feeling the paper. If you ask them, what are you doing? They go, I'm looking at a picture. You go, no, your fingers are moving. Well, no, they weren't. Yep. You got to watch it. That's a really important one. So these are all reasons why I think it's important to make prints. The other one is Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just adding something, but there's as of right now when we're recording this episode, we have been having a lot of fires here in Portugal, thanks to the extreme weather we are experiencing. And I just heard last night or 2 nights ago on the news they were interviewing a person that had this over 100 years old house that caught fire, and one of the first things that the person, the owner, said was, I lost the photos of my grandparents on this fire. He was losing
Yeah.
the whole house, and the first thing that came was, I lost the photos of my grandparents. And that's how photos are important to us. And sooner or later, our hard drives will die. Our current external hard drives that we have, our libraries and things, if we don't take care of those, in 20 years, our computers will not read those. There's you will have to go to a company that can actually read that, like your old VHS tapes and things that we cannot read them anymore. And in 50 years, it would be even worse. A print will still be a print.
Yep, it'll
So,
still be
yeah,
there. And look at the people that saved their photos on Kodak's photo CD format. There's no way to open them.
yeah,
Good luck finding somebody that can open a Kodak photo CD. And so many people save their images in that Kodak CD format, and they're locked in there. They might as well be locked in a safe. Good luck finding the combination to get them
yeah,
out. And there's a lot of people that are brokenhearted about it. I have these
mhm,
CDs and I can't see what's on them. My parents left them to me.
yeah,
Say what you want about that old shoebox. It worked. When you
yeah,
throw those images in there, it's like either I have images from me as a toddler and 3 years old, 4 years old. I think that people forget that when you print a photograph, you're printing the visual history of your life. You're printing your visual history. So when you do that, you're ensuring that your grandkids and their kids and all will be able to see those images. If you
yeah,
put it on a hard drive, there is it is going to die. It's gonna die. I don't
yeah,
care if you put it on an SD flash or what kind of hard drive you put it on. So one of the biggest purchasers of hard drives in the United States, anyway, is a Backblaze. So Backblaze is a cloud storage service place, and they buy thousands and thousands and thousands of hard drives every year. And each year they publish a report at the end of the year on the health and well-being of their hard drives. And I believe the figure is 13%. 13% of their drives die every year. And
yeah,
so they're constantly buying new drives to put fresh drives in there. But that means out of 100 people, 13 people think that their images are backed up on a hard drive, and they're not, and they
they're
don't
not.
mount, and they're dead. And
Yeah,
and someone might say to you, "Oh, well, Scott, aren't there services that can resurrect a dead hard drive?" Absolutely. Do you know what it costs to resurrect a dead hard drive? Just over $2,000. It's very few people are going to cough up. I mean, people do it, or those companies wouldn't exist, right?
yeah,
People have lost, things, but you're paying thousands of dollars to get back, most or all, if you're lucky,
yeah,
of what was lost on that drive. But if that is your plan to leave stuff in the future, it's not a sound plan. You're going to wind up getting burned. So, that's another reason to make prints is it's the visual history of your life. If you
yeah.
want it to be like you were never here, put them on a hard drive, put them on a CD or a
Well, I
DVD.
had I had an experience myself with. I also use online services to back up my library, my photo library, but at some point I had my server, and then I had the backup from my server at home into the cloud. And I had a photo that I took of my dad that was already on the server, so I could delete my memory cards, and because I had a backup on the server, but it was not yet backed up to the cloud. And guess what? The
Oh
server drive
no.
crashed. So that was the photo, my favorite photo of my dad. The good thing is that I had sent it to a printing service that got like a little thumbnail. I did have, and I still do, I have the print, and I was able to get the print. I mean the little thumbnail, the JPEG that the online service still had. So I was able to
Oh,
get that, and thanks to those resized products right now, I was able. Actually, I reviewed that recently for Photoshop User Magazine. So I was able to kind of get back that photo. But the thing again is that the best option would be the scanning from the print. And even if I don't have that, I had the print. So that was it. So
yep.
I was saved by that print and the little thumbnail, the JPEG that I had. And there was no way I'm not going to pay $2,000, $3,000 to try and recover that hard drive
Oh,
just
yeah.
because of
That's,
that photo. It's like, oh, and I'm not sure if I want to do that. And so again, the print saved the day, and that's that thing. And then people think, okay, I have them on my phone, but then they don't realize that the phone is not backing up to the cloud. It depends on how you have it configured, right?
yep,
And
it
then
absolutely does.
people forget that their phone uh, gets uh, um, breaks or gets stolen, or you lost it or you lose it or something, and there goes your photos. And there's people that have photos from their little children on their phone for years. They have been upgrading and replacing that, and suddenly those are gone, or their online account gets hacked because they use the same password everywhere, and
Everywhere. Oh,
suddenly all the photos are gone, everything. And then they have, oh, but I have Facebook. Come on, your Facebook account can be hacked too, right?
yeah.
Suddenly you don't have anything there, or you don't have access to those things. So printing is always a safe, like a safety net. And as
Well,
you're
look what,
saying,
what happened with
holding the
Google
print.
Plus. Google
Google
Plus was
what?
Google Plus
I
was a
know, I remember
huge,
that. Yeah,
huge online service like Facebook or Twitter. In fact, it
yeah,
was designed to compete with Facebook and Twitter. And the great thing about Google Plus was it was photocentric before anything else was. It's
yeah.
when you put a photo on Google Plus, it was 10 times the size of the one on Facebook. People forget, but Facebook photo that you used to put up there was the size of a postage stamp. It was a tiny little thumbnail, and you had to click on it to see a bigger one. And so every photo that you saw was just tiny. And then Google Plus came out with these big, big, nice, big photos, and then sure enough, Facebook changed theirs to compete. Well, Google Plus, one day you get a message from Google and they said, hey, we're not going to do this anymore. Well, you know how many photos I had on Google Plus? I was putting up there every day, right? I had millions of followers actually on that. When that thing went away, I lost like 1.8 million followers overnight. It
Ouch.
was like I had a huge following on Google Plus because if you signed up there and you said photography was one of your interests, it recommended me as one of your people to follow. I wasn't the only one they recommended. They had groups of people, but I got somehow lucky enough to get in that group, and son of a gun, it my numbers
Well, not lucky
exploded.
enough. You deserve it. Come on.
No, 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 it was very lucky. But anyway, they up and closed. And all of
Yep.
those photos that I put on Google Plus are gone. So if you're thinking that Facebook couldn't one day close, if Google can close something, so can Facebook. So can, I mean,
Oh,
you've seen
absolutely.
other social medias come and go, and
Yep.
you can't really use them as your backup plan.
Yep.
The best way is a print can last 100 years or more. I mean, we have prints that are
Yep.
hundreds of years old.
Yep.
We see prints from the 1800s and stuff that are still around, and so it is you are protecting the visual history of your life when you make a print.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would like to add also one thing is that when you print, you can actually use it as a learning tool to make better photographs, to be a better photo editor. Because when you're seeing the photos small on Instagram, every photo looks sharp and nice, and you don't see all these
Yep.
artifacts and things that your lousy editing left behind. But when you print it big, suddenly you start seeing the halos really big. You start seeing that your masking was not so good, that the colors are a bit off, and then you can use that as, okay, I need to improve my skills, because in fact, now that I see it big, I see that I I need to improve my editing skills, and you don't want to print a big photo and spend the money on paper and ink than to realize that something is wrong. So you better take care of that before. So it's also a good learning tool, right? So that's the thing.
Yeah.
So I think we can move on to the next one. So now that we know why people should print their photos, there's typical reasons for people not to print. Oh, I know it's expensive, or it's complex, or, well, it's not really necessary because I use my phone. What do you hear people saying when they tell you that they don't print at all?
Well, there's a couple of different reasons. Hey, for those of you who are watching on video and you're wondering why the lighting keeps changing in the room that I'm in, it's because I made the mistake of putting a motion sensor in here. So there's a motion sensor in this room, so when I open the door, the lights go on. And it's supposed to have an occupancy sensor that if someone's in the room, it doesn't turn off. But after a while, it does. So I have to wave my hand. Let's see if it sees that I'm here. Hey, there's somebody here. It's not going to do it. But it'll eventually just go, oh, wait, there is somebody here. And it's over behind me. It's over, I don't know, you can't see it. It's over that away someplace. And
Don't
anyway.
worry. Most people are listening.
Most people
so.
are listening. Yeah, but for those of you who are watching and you're like, wow, it's the lighting's good on Scott, the lighting's bad on Scott. It's because the room lights, I have a bunch of them in here, just go off randomly. So if you see it suddenly get brighter, that's why. Okay, let's talk about the 3 reasons why people don't print. I think one big reason is, let's just say that you own a printer. And this is going to be a very honest assessment of what life is like owning a printer. And it's not what you think. If you buy a printer, or if you ask me, Scott, should I buy a printer? Here's what I would tell you. How often are you going to print? Are you going to print every week? I mean, every week, 52 weeks a year, you're printing all the time. If you told me yes, then I'd say buy a printer. And it's not because of the money. It's because printers need to print. And if you let them sit there for a month and you go to make a print, it takes you about an hour to get one decent print, because you let it sit for a month, the inks are all kind of just sitting still, everything's kind of messed up. You run your first print through, and that takes a few minutes, right, for it to process. It comes out, and there's streaks all over your paper, your heads have clogged, all this different stuff. You have to go through a whole series of loops and stuff to finally get it back printing at 100%. And what we've estimated internally, because we have a bunch of printers, is if you want to make a print and haven't done one in a while, it's about an hour to get your first print out. Now, your second print might be 4 minutes. Your third print might be 4 minutes. All the rest are fast. But to get to that first one good solid print, literally, you're going to be about an hour. It just takes forever. You're making test prints. You're burning through paper. You're burning through ink. You're running test patterns. You're doing you're cleaning nozzles. You're doing all this stuff to finally get it back where you want it to be. And that's a frustrating place to be. I find that one of the reasons why, and I've heard this from many people, but I know for myself, from my own experience, I'm like, oh, I'd like to make a print of that. Oh, crap. Do I have an hour? Now, if I'm printing a lot, I just hit print, walk over to the printer, and there it is. But if you haven't printed in a month or 6 weeks, so that's number one. Now, you also did mention the cost. The printer itself, printers are cheap today. You can buy a printer really cheap. You can buy a $99 photo printer. And it comes with some inks, and it comes with sample paper and stuff. And it's kind of like, they make that joke, we give you the razor for free, and then you got to buy razor blades the rest of your life. Yeah, printers are like that. Printers are very inexpensive, but then the printing and the inks, the paper's not so bad. The ink is where they get you. So ink is expensive. Now, you can find ways around it. The folks like Eric Kuna, so he's my co-host on The Grid and a very good photographer and dear friend. Eric always finds ways around everything. And Eric is not a cheap guy, but Eric does not like to spend more than he needs to. He's not a cheapskate. He's kind of thrifty. So Eric will find a brand of third-party ink that is a third of the cost of a name brand ink. Because if you buy, you're probably using it. There's only 2 printers you're using, right? An Epson or a Canon. That's pretty much the printing world. Which one are you
Yeah,
using, Nando?
I'm using Epson.
Yeah, you either have an Epson or a Canon. If you have an HP, you've made a big mistake.
Well, you might have an office printer, and that might be an HP,
That's an
right? So,
HP. I was just going
yeah,
to say an HP is a business printer.
yeah.
I don't see anybody winning competitions on an HP. So anyway, we don't really consider HP a photo printer. It'll make photo quality stuff, but at a business level, not like a Canon or an Epson. So those are the two printers. Canon and Epson prints inks are very expensive. So Eric Kuhnel will always go and find out I can use these inks and they cost a third of the price and they still look great and stuff like that. But anyway, it's a whole thing. You've got to stock paper, you've got to stock inks, and you have to be willing to babysit your printer. Which is why today I do most of my printing, even though I got a bunch of printers. And I got big, giant, wide, massive 48-inch wide printers, and I've got smaller printers and little. I do most of my printing through a photo lab. Now, I think the reason why more people don't print to a photo lab is very simple. They just don't realize how easy it is. They just think, oh, it's going to be complicated. It is the easiest thing in the world. You set up an account, which is just like setting up an account at anywhere, at Amazon or Home Depot or wherever. You just set up, name, address, and all that stuff, and your credit card information. Then you upload a photo. Their upload speeds are really fast. Like their servers are tuned to be quick. So you take your image, you upload it, and then it just says, okay, I got your photo. What do you want to do with it? And all you have to do is choose which size. I recommend to people to use digital sizes. A lot of times you'll go to a photo lab and they're having the old traditional print sizes, 8 by 10, 16 by 20, when what you really want for digital is a 16 by 24. Like you don't want to have to crop your image to fit in old, outdated traditional film sizes. Most print labs today, I don't really know of any that don't, have digital sizes. But the problem is they're alongside the old school sizes. Like who wants an 8 by 10? Nando, who do you know? It's wanting an 8 by 10.
That's one thing, believe it or not. On the what I see on the Kelby One community, this is asked so many times. People have a sensor that is a 3 by 2 or 2 by 3. So that's most of the sensors have that ratio. But then they want the 4 by 5, and then they say, but I have these bars, or there's something wide here. There's these borders, and how can I print this image on this paper? And it's not gonna fit. Either you crop the image or you'd have to trim the paper. There's no way around it. So unless you want to distort it, so there's the only way.
Okay, but do you know why? Do you know why this is a problem? Do you know why they want to print it that size, Nando?
Oh, it's from the old days.
Well, no, it's not that it's from the old days. It's something worse. If you go to Target or if you go to Walmart, the frames are still in old sizes. If you go and buy a frame, the frames are 8 by 10 and the frames are 4 by 5 or 5 by 7. And these sizes, I don't know what is going on in the framing industry. They do not make mats and they don't make frames for the most part for the sizes that people actually use today. It's crazy. I just don't get it. So that's why, Nando, they're going in the community and they're asking, hey, how can I make it fit this size? Because that's the size frame they have. They have an opening for a 5 by 7, which does not work well with most digital cameras. I mean, there's you can get 4 by 3 cameras and all kinds of crazy stuff. You can get medium format cameras. You can get cameras that when you shoot them, they shoot square. I'm saying for the most part, for the average folks, they're hosed. They've got a frame in a weird size. If you want to buy a frame that has a matte opening in the size you want, you have to go to, like we have in the United States, we have a place called Michael's. They have do-it-yourself framing, and you have to walk back there and say, I want you to cut me one that's 16 by 24. I don't want a 16 by 20 opening. I want a 16 by 24. And they're like, oh my gosh, are you crazy? But yeah, and they cut you 16 by 24, and now it fits your digital print. So I think that is one thing. But when you go to these print labs, Nando, now they have the digital sizes. But you might have to do a little Googling just at the beginning to figure out what is a digital size. because you're going to see an 8 by 10, and then you're going to see an 8 by 12. And you're like,
Yeah.
well, can I do an 8 by 12? Now, what people don't realize is when you bring your photo up, they give you a preview. Like they bring up a window and say, here is your photo and here's the mat. Here's what it looks like. He gives you a preview so you can crop it or you can scale it or you can see that it's a perfect fit and it's not going to leave, like Fernando was just talking about, it's not going to leave gaps on the side or black frame around the top or bottom. It's going to fit the opening. So
Yeah, or
that is,
cutting someone out because there's
yeah.
this group and the people on the sides don't show on the print.
Yep, yep,
Yeah,
all of that stuff.
yeah, yeah.
So if you go to Google and you just type in, I need digital camera sizes, and it'll show you. So when you do go to their sites, you'll be able to choose one that is perfectly suited for your camera. But also, so the process is this. So you've opened an account, let's just say on Bayphoto or MPix or Miller's, wherever you go. You upload your photo. You choose the size, and then it asks you, do you want it matte? Do you want it mounted? Do you want it framed? You don't have to get any of that. You can just get a print, right?
Yep.
And oh, come on. Why is I think I had there, do not disturb is off. I had do not disturb on, and I'm still getting stuff. All right, so,
Must be important.
man, everybody's lighting up my phone. It's not important stuff. Everybody's lighting it up. All right, so anyway,
Yeah,
back to
yeah.
our story.
Yeah, I those are certainly reasons that people have experienced problems and they decide not to print because they can make it work for them. But as you're saying, going on a photo lab online, it's really easy. Whenever I
Oh, yeah.
send them to a photo lab, I use Whitewall, which is a company based in
Yeah.
Germany, but
Yep.
they ship probably all over the world and to the US
Yep.
for sure and across the world. They're very good. They have won many awards. They're very good, very reliable. They do have
Yep.
different ratios, and you have 3:2 or 2:3, whatever, depending on how you have it. And you have all the different sizes for your sensor. And they have all weird formats too, like squares and circles and things. So basically today you can print in any format you want, but you need to print. And that's the
Yep.
thing for today. It's you need to print. And again, the typical problems that we're saying, I see people sometimes they go and buy like an office printer, then say, oh, you can print borderless, and it's an office printer. It's also a scanner and maybe even a fax machine, if that thing still exists. I don't know, maybe. So you can have one of those printers, and you start printing, and then you go and get the cheapest paper you can find at your local supermarket, and you expect the whole thing to work. And then you start looking at the print and it doesn't look so good. Suddenly the borderless thing is not working well, and you give it a try. You spend all of your ink trying, and then you go and buy more ink, and suddenly you realize that the full set of ink for your printer is more than the actually price of the printer. So
Absolutely.
it's like, yeah, I'm not gonna buy anymore. So people forget about that. Then there's one thing, and I believe you mentioned this a lot on your conferences and your books. This is a typical problem that also shows a lot on the community. People go and say, "Oh, my prints are too dark."
Yep.
And that's usually the problem. My prints are too dark, and just because they don't realize that their screen is too bright, and that's why they add it to the screen, and then when it goes to the printer, it's too dark because the screen is too bright. So the print is
Well,
actually
the screen's backlit,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
There's light coming through your image. So there's an easy fix. It's a very, very easy fix. So you need to know and understand going into it. If you make your own prints or you send them to a lab, they're going to look darker than your screen. In Lightroom, there is a control. There is a printing command in the very bottom in the print job dialog or panel, excuse me. And it's called, I think, print adjustment. It's a checkbox with a slider. And what that does, and this is very interesting what it does, it makes your print brighter, but it does not change the image. It just changes the print. So I've heard people say, well, I don't want my print. I don't want to mess with my print. It looks great on screen. I just want it brighter when it prints. That's what this does. It only brightens it when you either print or save a JPEG from the print job dialog box to send it off to printing. And I generally am in the area of around plus 20 or plus 18 or something. Once you find out for your own printer or for the lab how much, brighter you need to make it, but it artificially makes your photo brighter because not only are you experiencing the that it's darker, that that when it hits the paper, it's going to be darker than a backlit screen, but you also have dot gain, where your images are going to get darker as the ink hits the paper, it spreads. And so there's all kinds of things against you to keep you from matching your screen. But that's a big one. You got to make it brighter, and you're going to artificially, you're going to go in there and you're going to say, I'm going to turn on this print adjustment. I'm going to drag it to the right, and I'm going to make some test prints. Now, here's the thing about test prints. You do not have to make 16 by 20 test prints. You can make little small 4 by 6 test prints. They make small prints too. Just take the same image. And if you go and watch any of my classes on printing over on Kelby 1, I actually show you how to make up a proof sheet. And I have you take the original image, then go like plus 10, plus 15, plus 20, print them on one piece of paper, and you look at it and you're going to know which one is the closest to the brightness of your screen. But once you get past that and your images looks very similar to what you see on screen, then it becomes a really happy place. But unfortunately, you have to do a little testing to get to that point. And again, all this stuff, it's a lot of this is one-time stuff. But again, I still like to send it to a lab because the lab doesn't run out of the right paper. The lab doesn't run out of ink. The lab doesn't, and I don't know if you've ever had to do this. Have you ever had to return or contact a lab, Nando, and tell them there was an issue with the print?
Nope.
If it ever happens, even if it's your mistake, even if you messed up, you have banding in your sky, you left an artifact or whatever, they will generally reprint it for you for free, even if the mistake is not theirs. They will absolutely 100% do it if it is their mistake. They'll absolutely reprint it. But even if it's your mistake, in most cases, they're like, no problem, we'll happy to reprint it. They just want to be making prints for you.
Yep.
The customer service, I haven't dealt with Whitehall. It's Whitehall, right? I haven't dealt with them. Whitewall. I haven't dealt with them, but I've dealt with MPix and Miller's and Bayphoto, and their customer service is phenomenal. And you'll tell them, oh, I made this print. I didn't realize there was a tree branch sticking in from the side. They're like, no problem. Remove the tree branch, reset it, we'll print it. I'm like, really? How much? No problem. We'll do it. I mean, their customer service is phenomenal. Yeah. Another thing that's nice. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was saying I never had to ask for a reprint from Whitewall, but I would expect their customer service to be as good. I really don't have a problem.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but great stuff about them.
Yeah, absolutely.
One other thing that I love, if you go to MPix, there's a couple little things that I like. So if you want to really super delight a customer, like blow a customer away on a level they never expect. So every once in a while I do client jobs just to kind of keep my finger in it just because I'm stupid. But I do like to do them once in a while. If I do that, I never tell them this, but I make them a print and I send them a print from MPix or Bayphoto. And it just shows up on their door one day, right? And they call me and they are over the moon. I don't care if it's like a product shot or if I'm doing a food shot for a restaurant or whatever it is, I send them a print. Now, here's the thing that's really cool. I send a big print. Don't send an 8 by 10. Nobody wants to get an 8 by 10. Send a 16 by 24 or larger. They're not very expensive, just the print. If you frame it, if you add glass, if you mount it, that stuff all gets expensive. But I just send it and I pick up the cost myself. When they ship it in a flat box. So your customer doesn't get a rolled up tube. They get a nice big flat box. So it comes in and it's large, like, whoa, what is this, right? The other thing is there is a checkbox in the checkout when you're checking out that you can check and they will remove all of their stuff from there. So it won't say MPix on it. It won't say it's from MPix. It'll say it's from Fernando Santos, and that'll be it. It's coming from you. Doesn't have anything from them. It's got your return address on it. It's in a flat box. They open it up and they are blown away. And they package it really nicely. I mean, that's all they do, right? They're a lab.
Yep.
They package it perfectly. Nothing's bent. It's flat as a board. It's big. It's impressive. It's large. And it costs less than you think it would. So if you want to really, really delight a customer and have them remember you forever, that's the trick. Send them a big print when the job is done and they will never forget you.
Yeah, because people will be sending a link by email. Here are the photos or whatever. So here's a photo that you didn't ask, but I thought that I should send you. And they send a photo. It can be even in high resolution. And they send a photo by email. But again, the customer will see them on their phone when they're reading email on the phone. And it will be this big, and it will even take more time to download because it's a high-res photo. So a print will make all the difference, absolutely. But still, since I started printing, and I still do online if it's larger, then I can print myself. But as you're saying, I print every week, sometimes several days a week. And it's not even if you print something small, it will help just making sure that the ink does not get, the print heads don't get clogged and everything.
Yeah.
So it's fine. Or you run just a nozzle check, and it's if you take care of your printer, the printer will take care of you. So it's
I knew you were going to
easy.
say that. I knew you were going to say that.
You
If you take care of your printer will take care of you.
Absolutely. So, one thing I think we're running out of time. I just want to go through my experience when I started printing. Printing myself, and maybe this can help anyone listening today that want to have the pleasure and the satisfaction of seeing your photo coming out of the printer, because that's really nice when you print big and you start seeing it appear slowly.
Ooh, yeah.
And you start looking at the print and you start getting excited at how good it looks, and then you finally have it in your hands like big. And when I had to do some research on what kind of printer do I want, what brand shall I pick and things. So as you were saying, mostly people will go with a Canon or an Epson printer if you're serious about photography. All other brands have great products, but those are the ones that you'll see photographers use, mostly those brands. So, and then you have different kinds of printer, from the less expensive to the more expensive ones that print larger and have more features, can take a paper roll or things. So I decided to go with an Epson SureColor P900, which is kind of new, has about a year and a few months. So, and it has 12 different print colors, I think. So it's a nice large printer, not huge, but it's a good one to have at home. And so I decided, okay, I'll go with Epson, and then I decided to go with a specific paper brand instead of going after all different kinds of paper, the cheapest one. So I'm spending this huge amount of money on ink, and then I'm putting that ink on crap paper. Come on, you don't print on toilet paper, right? So that's not one you want to do. It's the same thing as using your very expensive lens and then go and find the cheapest polarizer you can get for like $9 on eBay.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that. You don't want to spend $3,000 on a lens and then put a $9 polarizer or UV filter in front of your lens, right? So I went and looked for paper that could give me different options. Then I went with animal paper, which is, then you suddenly start realizing that you can get addicted to paper, like feeling the texture and smelling it, and
fiber, fine art paper, watercolor paper. Ooh.
Absolutely. So
nice
you feel the
stuff.
texture, and so that's what I want. So I want to see, okay, so I have this Epson printer, and I have this animal paper. And of course, there's other brands that will work. It's not just Epson or Animal is not a sponsor, and I'm not paid to say this. It's what I use. And when I went to those, I went to make sure that the paper had profiles for the printer. And that's a big thing, because if you want it to be accurate, you better have profiles for your paper. So if you go and find a printer that you're thinking in buying that, and if you're choosing paper, go see if that paper manufacturer has profiles for that printer, because that will be important. Then that means that probably you want to have a printer that is used by a lot of people and a paper company that is used by a lot of people, because the chance that you get them having support for each other will be much higher than if you have like a niche, inexpensive printer that no one uses and next month is not available anymore because you got it for at a promotion at your local supermarket. So look for items that are supported by the industry, and that's what I did. And then one thing I went for was getting paper samples from Animal, and you can get those cheap. It's like they have different types of paper that you can get, small sets, let's say 12 different types of paper, 8 different types of paper. So you get a small set, like 2 sheets of paper of each different kind, and I bought them all. I found an image that actually I created mine based on one that Daniel Gregory has. So I included 2 of my photos, typical photos. One was a portrait, another one was a landscape. And then you have these color scales and gray, black, white, and gray scales and all that on your sheet of paper. And then I went and printed each and every paper, taking note of on the print itself. I changed the name of the paper, the profile, and all that. So I have this file with all different kinds of animal paper and how that image looks when it's printed on that specific paper. So now I can go and look and see, okay, so how this specific paper holds the blacks, or how it holds the skin colors or whatever. So, and after printing all those, and I did that like in 2 days, I printed all different combinations. And I got the sense of what are the ones that I like the most. So based on that and fine tuning for and I don't use your trick of brightening the print. I actually have my screen not as bright as it usually is for most people. So suddenly I was printing successfully, and it was not as difficult as I thought. So I'm happy. I live a happy life with my printer. As I was saying, I take good care of my printer. My printer takes good care of me, and it works every time. So that's it.
There's a few things that Fernando failed to mention, which is important. Number one, he's very wealthy. Nando has lots of money, so he can just test stuff and print stuff. All it's very, very, very. I've been to Nando's house. It's very nice. And now the one thing that Nando, and it's not just him, but it's all of Portugal does not have, is electricity. So that makes it much harder to print. So anyway, no, I'm just kidding, just messing with you, Nando. Oh, well, no, there's one thing I do want to mention besides Nando's wealth, which is the profiles that he's talking about. Now, it sounds like you're saying animal, but are you saying Hammenmule?
Animal.
Is that the paper you use?
Yeah, okay. Hangimul, well,
yeah. Okay.
However it is said in German, yes.
Okay, all right. So if you go to their site, or you go to Epson's site or Canon's site, the printer profiles that he's talking about, what they do is they tell Lightroom or Photoshop, there's ones for both, that says, this is the kind of paper I'm printing on. It lets you know what the paper is. It is a color profile matched to that paper and your printer. So the profile is for your, so you'll go on their site and you'll say, I have a Canon Pro 1000 and I'm printing on Hahnemühle, I can't think of one of their
cotton
papers
rag.
for a second. Yeah, cotton rag. And and the printer profile is free. They don't charge you for them. They make them available for free. You install it one time and now it lives in Lightroom. You don't have to keep it. This is a one-time thing. You literally go to their site, tell them what paper, what printer, you download the driver, you install the driver, and that's it. It's there from now on. And when you go to print, when you're in Lightroom, you'll actually go and choose that. Oh, I'm printing on their cotton rag today. I'm going to choose the Hammond Mule cotton rag, and then that's it. So it's very easy, but the main thing I wanted to mention was it's free, and also that Nando's got lots of bucks. So he does. He lives a different life than the rest of us. It's okay.
Absolutely. That's how we live our life in Portugal.
Yeah, and everything in Portugal is inexpensive.
That's
Portugal
why we
is one
are
of
all
the most
very
inexpensive
wealthy.
places. Yeah, because everybody's making money there. Because everything, there's only two places I've been to in my life that were very inexpensive to travel to: Prague and Lisbon. Oh my gosh, Lisbon. We would order food and we'd get the bill and we're going, this can't be right.
Yeah, I remember that. Your brother Jeff was like, "What? Is
This
that
is crazy.
each one of us?" No, it's the whole group, and we were like eight or nine.
And we're like, no way. Yeah, so you realize it's very inexpensive to live in Lisbon.
Yeah.
So that's why everyone's moving there.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of people from other countries, including the U.S.,
Sure.
moving to Portugal. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Portugal's amazing. I love Portugal.
Yeah. Well, Portugal loves you too, Scott. So it's about
One of my
time
favorite
that...
guys lives in Portugal, and he's very wealthy.
Well, there's this city called Porto that is still waiting for you. So
And dude, I'm coming. I'm telling you, that's on my list. It's high on my list.
Well, there's other places that I want to take you to. So, but that's for a different episode. Anyway, we are running out of time today. So, Scott, anything else you want to add?
Nothing. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I love to talk about printing. I consider myself like a printing evangelist because I realize the importance of the print. And the thing is, and this is a very weird thing about printing, once you make a nice big print, whether you print it or you print it from a lab, I promise you it's going to have an effect on you. You're going to get it. And you're going to want to start doing it all the time. Now, you may start using the lab so much you think it's better for your time and everything and financially for you to buy a printer. But you're going to get hooked. Nando got hooked. Everybody gets hooked. And that's why it's so much fun. And you will love it. I never talk to anyone that says, yeah, I just don't like printing. No, everyone's like, oh gosh, I love making prints. It is, and it's a craft. It takes a little bit of doing.
It is.
Like anything else, to get really, really good at it, you'll learn for many years and you'll get better and better and you'll learn what works and what doesn't. But the quality of today's printers are so amazing. It is not like it used to be in the old days where you really had to struggle to get a good print. You're going to get a good print first time out of the box as long as you use decent paper. Nando made mention of that many times. You need to buy photo quality paper. Don't try to put it on copier paper. Don't chintz out on the paper. Buy nice paper. You buy Epson paper, buy Canon brand paper, buy Hammond Mule. Go to Red River Paper is a great source for paper, redriver.com. Their papers, and they stock other people's papers, but they've got some very, very nice papers, and they'll even tell you what the most popular papers are. Here's what everybody buys, But start off with a nice luster paper, something with a luster finish, which is like typical what you get from a lab if you don't specify something else, and let your love affair with printing begin.
Well, my love affair now is called matte paper and not luster anymore. As you
That's
start,
nice.
when you see that on matte paper, a big print, and it's not shiny, and you see the colors all over, it doesn't matter. Oh, it's so good.
Yep.
And then the smell of paper and feeling it. Paper. That's good. Well, that's it for today, I think. Yeah, paper. So I hope we were able to get you at least interested in giving it a try. So, well, you've heard from me, you've heard from Scott, you've heard from many other photographers that you should try it. Either print using an online lab or print yourself if you're brave enough to spend some time and some money. And you'll get hooked, like just like Scott said. So, well, that's it for today, guys. Thank you, Scott, for being for co-hosting today with me.
Well,
This is the Epic
course,
Photography
delighted.
Podcast. You can find more about us on epicphotographypodcast.com. You can follow us on social media. And again, this episode was sponsored by BodyPod, the world's most compact tripod base. That's it for now. We'll be back next week with another awesome episode. Bye, guys.